Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 5 questions in 10 minutes, and we are very excited to have our guest today. I'd like to introduce to everyone John Richards, very similar to my own name, Sean Richards, but it is John Richards, and he is the founder and CEO of Startup Ignition. And John, what would you like us to know about Startup Ignition?
Well, Startup Ignition is kind of the culmination of my career as an entrepreneur, angel investor, and mentor to entrepreneurs. I had a career in entrepreneurship, got lucky in life, and had that company go public. And then afterwards, my alma mater, Brigham Young University, invited me to be a professor of entrepreneurship, and I did that for 12 years and really honed my craft as a mentor to entrepreneurs. And after that, I took it off campus and put it out in the community, and it's called Startup Ignition, and it's an entrepreneur boot camp. It's a short-term skills-based boot camp to teach people what to do and what not to do as they're launching new ventures. And it's located and run in the state of Utah. We hold it right in Lehi, Utah, which is the center of entrepreneurial activity in Utah these days. And people from other nations and even other states come into Utah for a 3-day kickoff, and then they get 3 months of unlimited mentoring. And that's the boot camp that I run, and it's a really fun experience for me, and I really enjoy it.
Well, that sounds fantastic. You've got a great operation going there and providing all that help for entrepreneurs. So that's fantastic. Well, let's get started with our questions today. Our first question, share with us a success story of collaboration within a team.
Terrific. I will share with you, one time I was in the Yellow Pages industry, where some of your listeners may be too young to remember Yellow Pages because they're not used very much anymore, but they used to be the definitive referral guide for communities to link up buyers and sellers. And they were a printed publication of all the businesses in an area, and you were able to find those businesses when you had a need for something. And so we were launching a new Yellow Pages product in a new market, and we had a team working on that, and the team was getting discouraged because it was taking much longer to get penetration and get sales going, advertising sales in that new product, and it took more months than we had thought to get up to where we needed to be. And we discussed what to do. Should we abandon the project? Should we keep it going? What should we do? And like a lot of things in life, you just need time to get things going, and then there's a snowball effect that can take place. And the top salesperson and myself as an executive, we decided to say, let's give it 2 more months and see how it goes. And because we did that and we collaborated on biding our time for 2 more months and really putting our efforts in, that became our number 2 product of all time. And it really took off during that 2-month phase, and we closed really well. And it was a great Yellow Pages publication for us.
Wow, what a great example of collaboration. That was a good success story. Thank you for sharing that. Question number 2, I hear from other leaders of teams that it can be a challenge to measure engagement within a team. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think that's very hard to measure engagement. It's not easy. In fact, as a mentor and as an investor, I have started working with a new startup company that is addressing this problem head on through a software analytics tool. It's really interesting. Matter of fact, I believe I'm going to tell you about that a little bit more. And it's really interesting where we can take the software that people are working in, and we can measure how much they're working with each other and the level of their collaboration, and make recommendations on which people work best together, and also how they can work more effectively together.
Wow, that sounds like a fascinating project and experience all the way around. Question number 3. Based on your experience, what is one essential characteristic of a confident leader?
Well, there's sometimes a fine line between arrogance and confidence, and I've noted that all my career, and it's a big difference. You don't want an arrogant leader, but you definitely want a confident leader. And I think one of the key characteristics I could point out that tells me that that person is confident is when they admit, or I should say, when he or she admits his or her mistakes in front of her work group or his work group. So when this leader is in front of the group and admits that a mistake has been made, it was his or her mistake, and it's going to be corrected and takes accountability and responsibility for it, that's when you know that a leader is confident and is able to really admit mistakes, get over it, and move on. And I think it's a great example showing that on the team there's going to be mistakes made and we can get through them and then we can move on. And I think that's one of the greatest signs that I've seen in confident leaders.
That's a great comment. I really like that, especially the part about kind of acknowledging the mistake, but then moving on. That's something sometimes, at least I'm this way, I get kind of stuck on a mistake that I've made and I have a hard time letting go of it and forgiving myself, if you want to use that phrase. But wow, what great advice. Thank you for sharing that. Question number 4, is there an experience that you've had with someone in your past, or is there someone you'd like to just recognize that has made a difference in your life?
Yes, I thought about this a while ago, but I'm going to share one for a dear person in my life that has passed away. When I was starting off in my career, the first section of my career, I was not very good at a lot of things. And one of the things I was really poor at was actually terminating employees. So I got into a management and executive role. And that is one of the toughest things to do, is to have to terminate an employee as a leader. And the first time I did it, I believe it took me 2 hours, and the woman I was terminating was crying and I almost was crying, and it was just a terrible ordeal. And so somebody who almost was a father figure to me, his name was Warren, he took me aside and trained me on how to do it right. And it seemed a little counterintuitive because it was very matter of fact and very quick and didn't seem very sensitive. But he trained me and showed me how it was done. And then the next time I did it, following his training, I terminated someone, and it went quickly, it went effectively. And 2 weeks later, that former employee, called me back and said, "Wow, that is one of the best things. You were right. 2 weeks later, I'm happier. I found a position that suits me better, and I'm contributing more at this new company. So thank you for the way that you terminated me." And it's kind of interesting to get a call like that. And that was really a big difference because it taught me a skill. And as I went on my career, there were times where I had to, hire and let go people. And that was a great training for me.
Wow, that's a great story, because you don't hear too many times of receiving some training on how to let someone go or terminate them. So that's a great example. Last question. Tell us about your first job.
Well, is this out of high school or college? Can you clarify that?
Either way, whichever one you feel like is the most memorable or beneficial for you.
Well, out of high school, it was a driver of a delivery truck. So I'll go the one out of college. The first one after finishing my 4-year degree, I went up to Seattle, and this is how I got into the Yellow Pages business. Is I took the task of taking a very old-fashioned Yellow Pages company that used to do typesetting, even with lead type. And a lot of people won't even know what that is. It was just as CompuGraphic typesetters were coming online, and before, or just as the dawn of the personal computer age. So my first task was to take this company and computerize it with personal computers. And it was quite an interesting thing. And I was in charge of doing this. And it taught me a lot of great things about the technology world. And we got the company to move its processes of creating display ads and also putting together listings, long database listings, and digitizing it into a computer environment using very new software tools that now are commonplace. And that was really quite an interesting experience and really set me on a good course for my career.
Well, it sure sounds like it. Well, thank you for sharing that. And John, thank you also for being on the podcast today. How can people find you?
Well, I'm easy to find. You can go to startupignition.com and find all about Startup Ignition, and you can reach me at jrichards@startupignition.com. That's J, my first initial, my last name, Richards, at startupignition.com.
That sounds great. Thank you. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, you can go to teamengagementpodcast.com. Once again, teamengagementpodcast.com. And we also encourage you to subscribe to either our YouTube channel or to the podcast audio version. Thanks so much for joining us today, and have a great day.